Welcome to Path to Peace with Todd Perlmutter. I'm your host, Todd Perlmutter. Our world is a projection of our collective consciousness. The more peace we bring into our lives, the more peace we bring into this world. So let the transformation begin. Very often, we can feel like life is becoming just an endless cycle of work, chores, mindless entertainment, rinse and repeat. And we feel stuck and where nothing seems exciting anymore, where every day becomes a chore in itself, where we wonder, isn't there something more to life than this sleep, work, play cycle? And it's really no wonder, because when we are constantly seeking pleasure, trying to avoid pain, all to just get through the day, we feel like a hamster on a hamster wheel, running on that endless cycle, that treadmill that goes nowhere, because we are. And the key is to get off of that treadmill, to have a moment of not just physical, bodily stillness, but to have some stillness in our mind. For most of us, rest is not even fully restful because our mind is racing a million thoughts per minute. All because we do not have a practice of slowing down our mind. It doesn't have to be sitting on the meditation cushion in silence for an hour a day, although that is incredibly useful and something I do myself, because it makes everything in life so much more enjoyable. And not only that, but it's the sitting with your thoughts and emotions that you notice that life is never boring and dull when you always have this dynamic mental activity going on. And you always have this area to explore, manage, handle, and deal with. Sometimes it's totally restful and peaceful. And sometimes it's negative and obsessive and ruminating over past difficult experiences. And so there's always this push-pull between being centered, staying centered, and a mind that wants to run off to any other place or time instead of being right here and now. It's not a failure when the mind wanders. It is part of that beauty and dance of life happening, and we are just playing with it. So yes, if we're always watching shows on our free time or scrolling on our phone and filling up our day with work and chores between the entertainment, or even if we have a jam-packed social calendar that doesn't allow any time for rest, reflection, introspection, and that rejuvenation that we all need, then we will be living our lives mostly in a trance. Our attention will be hijacked by someone else's words in the content we consume, or by the tasks of our day. So we have to recognize that every single thing we consume, even song lyrics, and especially the news, these are things that we don't just read and then we forget about. They rattle around in our brain for hours, days, and weeks. They color our perception of the world, and they fill up that beautiful, peaceful space with oftentimes junk. Sometimes inspiring and insightful information or beautiful poetry. And there is a beautiful place in our lives for all of these meaningful pleasures and entertainment. But we do need to become mindful of how they affect us, how they clutter our minds, and to not let them overtake that spaciousness and stillness that gives us peace and sanity. Almost all of us are addicted to excitement. We grow up at a very early age where we are almost encouraged to lose our minds with excitement. We're given foods and drinks that are like, according to the brain scans, crack to children. And so our baseline for happiness becomes this extreme level of excitement, which is not sustainable. And that level of dopamine at all times would fry our neurocircuitry. And so when we're feeling stuck and drained, we're really lacking that balance, that deep relaxation that has to come after our bodies and minds are overly stimulated. Because forget the drugs, forget the substances, forget the foods, the gambling, the hyper-stimulating shows and content, and even the highly engaging social interactions. We are addicted to excitement and adrenaline. And all of those activities that I just mentioned are merely the symptoms of this addiction to excitement and stimulation. It takes many forms, but it all comes down to that addiction to pleasure. Truly, and I am not making this up, doing the dishes, doing the laundry can be just as exciting as watching your favorite show. It is my number one goal when I do the laundry, for example. And oftentimes I don't even use the dryer because part of my joy of the laundry is the doing it and the finding the way to enjoy it, to make it peaceful, and to be present for it. That is my number one mission. And so I love doing the laundry. And I love when there is a ton of laundry. And it is my greatest joy. And I get mad if anyone tries to help me do the laundry because that is my time to meditate, basically, and to relax every muscle of my body, to calm any negative thoughts, to keep my mind focused on each piece of laundry as I am hanging them. And over time, the laundry has become more and more and more enjoyable and easier and easier and easier, to the point where it's not even a struggle. It is just one of the highlights of my day. Conversely, when I feel like I am too engaged with the pleasures and distractions in my life, when I am consuming too much mindless content, watching too many shows, listening to too many podcasts, not this one, of course. This one doesn't count. This one's beneficial, useful. The anti-podcast podcast. But when I find myself getting distracted from my meditation, from the stillness in my life, when I feel like my brain is overflowing with mostly useless stuff. I mean, even if I'm listening to a science podcast and it's just filling my brain with knowledge, I'm not going to use that at work. I'm not going to apply theoretical physics or quantum physics to my writing day job. So it's just my insatiable curiosity getting the better of me and pulling me away from peace and presence. So I know that I need to take a fast. I need to sign off podcasts for a while, maybe a week, maybe a month. Stop checking whatever app I've been using too much. In the past, it's been social media, news, and I try to just stick to those things that we know we never really get too addicted to. I never get too addicted to books, so I can keep that. But I have to do a little fast, a little information fast, where I just stop consuming. I maybe create more. I maybe write more. But I'm not putting more stuff in my brain. I'm trying to get what's in there out. And that is super important. I'll share an interesting story that happened to me during the 50 days I spent in the forest meditating with no technology, no books, no distractions of any kind, just meditating for 12 hours a day. And I think it's just super interesting and shows something truly phenomenal about how our brains work. So as I started to meditate during my 50 days, I was thinking constantly, and my mind would come up with something to think about, even though I'm in the middle of the woods and there's really nothing else to do or think about but just try to be meditating and present. I was reliving every single conversation that I had in the last few weeks. Every single email, I was just reciting it in my mind. My mind would not stop going over basically every word I read or said in the last several weeks. And then it kept going back in time, and it would go to months, and then it went to years. And I was constantly having this monologue in my brain that would replay conversations, song lyrics, movies, almost entire scripts of movies would just be playing through my mind, going back in time years and years until I went, maybe by the second or third week in this forest, I was singing in my mind songs from kindergarten, like children's songs. Every single memory in my mind played on a loop for days and days and weeks and weeks. Song lyrics and movie scripts and conversations I didn't even know I remembered. And then after all just going on for so long and moving back in time to my earliest memories, finally, I broke through. And there was the deepest peace, the deepest stillness, and the deepest joy that I had ever known in my entire life. My entire life, I only knew pleasure. I only knew that after a baseball game when I was a kid and we won, we'd celebrate with pizza and we'd go nuts. And if we lost, we'd probably get ice cream to make ourselves feel better. But it was just this constant pleasure to pleasure. And I never knew what peace was. Sitting still was suffering. It was painful. I was bored out of my mind. And my mind would just scream, "This sucks. This is the worst. Gotta get out of here. Gotta do something. What can we do?" And, I'm just always searching. And that pleasure was always fleeting. It was always temporary. As soon as it was over, it's like it never happened. I was miserable again, and I was looking for something to bring me up. This is that cycle that we all get stuck on. And on this 50-day journey was the first time I ever experienced truly deep peace and how fulfilling and satisfying it actually was. It makes you appreciate what you have in your life so much more. It fulfills you and enriches you after it's over, not just during. And once you feel that deep joy that comes from deep peace for even just a moment, you will do whatever you can to create more of that peace, to protect those still, silent moments, rather than try constantly to fill that space with mindless noise. You will become more aware of what you put in your brain, what you put in your body. Is it nourishing you in the big picture, or is it giving me fleeting, momentary pleasure that will harm me and my mental peace in the long run? And those good habits, those wise decisions will become easier and eventually effortless, because we only harm our mental peace and our physical body when we are unaware of what we are doing. The world is not choosing to be sick and unhappy. We are not choosing to pollute our own rivers and air. It is just as Jesus said when he was on the cross, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." And of course, as long as we are distracting ourselves, staying occupied all the time, keeping busy, and consuming mental and physical junk food, our lives will be as though we are sleeping during the day and at night. The only way to awaken to the beauty, reality, truth, and meaning of life is to pay attention, to open our eyes, and to awaken. But we must first realize that we are asleep, that we are in a dream, that we are drugging ourselves with food and substances. We are entrancing ourselves with mindless content. We are mentally escaping during our chores and our work, and that we are living our lives lost in our minds to thought, negative and repetitive thought. Work is only challenging and difficult because we resist it. Chores are only boring because we fight it. When we stop fighting, we can be rejuvenated by these activities. We can love the journey to peace while we are living in the chaos. And only then, when we do these tasks with clarity, with stillness and presence, can we have the awareness to start to tidy up our lives, to repair any problems that we may be going through, to work on the things that truly matter, our relationships, our health, our mental health, and our spiritual health. Only then can we truly use our time consciously and make sure we're using it wisely, fitting in all the things that we really need to do to have a fulfilling, rich, and good life. When we are just pulling out our phone with every moment of stillness, when we do the same thing every night, like binging on Netflix or any other number of things that we do to try to find some relief to the stress we've accumulated, we will never get down to the real things that rejuvenate us. We will never find time for meditation, for exercise, for reflection and introspection, for good books or podcasts like this one that nourish us, nourish our soul, and keep us focused on what truly matters, and that do enrich us and add value to our life. They say we live in the attention economy, where your attention is the most valuable thing in the world. So make sure you're treating your awareness, your focus, your concentration as valuable as it truly is. Don't give it away freely to something that doesn't give value back to you. Direct it with intention and the wisdom of your highest self. Put your focus in places that expand your awareness and heighten your consciousness. Only then can every tiny little nuance and subtlety, every little detail, every little glimmer of light flickering or sparkling on the water like diamonds, bring us joy and delight, with no need to be hypnotized by the media or substances. No need to bury ourselves in work to distract us. No need for relief of any kind, because we are not in a state of constantly draining ourselves. And only then will the mundane become extraordinary. Thank you for listening. Thank you to everyone who has supported this podcast by donating through eastwesticism.org or Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee or YouTube, or even just subscribing, leaving a review, liking, commenting, or sharing. You are the reason I'm able to keep this podcast going, keep the lights on and the microphones turned on. It is all thanks to you. I can't thank you enough. Your support means the world, and it is helping these teachings reach so many people who need it and who are changing their lives, changing their little corner of the world. And this is how we change the world. Much love. You have been listening to Path to Peace with Todd Perlmutter. Being here and putting in this important and noble work is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself and others. If you found this podcast even a little helpful, please make sure to leave a review so it can reach others who may be in need. And remember, the path to peace starts with a single step.